Hi, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for our LinkedIn Live event. If you're seeing me, you're in the right place. Before we get started, a quick reminder, there is no link clicking required during this event. We welcome your comments and questions. We'll not be asking you to click any links. Please feel free throughout the event to post questions and your comments in the live chat. We welcome your engagement. My name is Megan Hansen and moderator today. Currently, I am the Data Center Commercial Group Manager with Eaton in our Power Solutions business, and my team delivers pre-sale technical expertise, quotations, price, lead time for our three-phase UPS, battery energy storage, and our data center power distribution products. My team and I are the bridge between our outside sales teams and our manufacturing plant. I started with Eaton right out of college and have been able to chase my passions and grow my career within this wonderful company now for about 13 years. I'm joined today by an esteemed panel of professionals in the data center space, and we'll hand it over to Alex to have her introduce herself.
Thanks, Megan. My name is Alex Rangel. I'm currently the product owner for Direct Current. That means that my team owns this global strategy around the 800 volt DC product portfolio we need to bring to market. That product will enable us to build AI data centers. Our team is slowly growing, and I'm very excited to be part of this team. My story is very similar to Megan's. I've been with Eaton around 13 years. I just recently relocated here to Raleigh, North Carolina. And with Eaton, I've been able to grow my career and throughout that had very different roles. I'm going to hand it over now to Elise. Elise, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Alex. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Nice to be together today. My name is Elise Bodney, and I am based in Brussels, Belgium. And I am a key account manager looking after a large hyperscale account, data center account, in the EMEA region, that's Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I have been with Eaton for 1 year. So unlike the others before me, I'm actually the newest one, I think, of the team. So I'm going to head over to Clint next to introduce himself.
Hey, thanks, Elise. And thanks for joining everyone. My name's Clint Hopkins. I'm one of the sales directors on our strategic accounts team focused on multi-tenant data center and co-location providers. Our team supports the full Eaton portfolio. So we support everything from 38 kV all the way down to equipment in the white space. So I've been with Eaton about 10 years now, had a variety of assignments since then, mostly on the commercial side, customer facing. But Eaton's the only company I've ever worked for. So really excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. All right. So to kick us off today, let's just ground everyone in the basics today. Maybe Clint, you can take the start of that.
Yeah. So what is a data center and why are data centers so important? Data centers, it's a word we hear everywhere. You hear it in the news, you hear it online. Data centers are the backbone of the digital world. So when we use that term, we're referring to the physical facility that houses the computing infrastructure, the servers, networking, cooling, and even the building itself. So when you think about it, every email, financial transaction, video stream, or even a ChatGPT meme you create ultimately runs through a data center somewhere. And we live in a digital world. Everybody's connected to their phones. Everybody is connected. So these facilities are foundational to our day-to-day existence.
Yeah, I would just say for me personally, in a very simplistic form, data centers are the warehouse where the computers sit that make the FaceTime home to family and friends possible. I'm a U.S. expat living in Belgium. I've been here for 9 years actually already. And data centers are really what makes seeing the world possible for me and keeping me connected to home still. And I think on a more important level, data centers are what makes possible more people around the world being able to access healthcare, education, markets to sell their goods and services. So yeah, I love working with data centers and in the data center space because I see that I get to see it from the ground up.
Yeah, Elise, your thoughts here remind me of our company's slogan, right? At Eaton, we always say, we make what matters work. So in this case, we make data centers work, which are kind of grounded in the basics and understand what a data center is. Let's zoom out a bit. Alex, can you start us off and tell us how data centers fit into the broader global megatrends and what big picture forces are shaping our industry?
Yeah, Megan, when we think about data centers, right, there aren't just a tech story anymore when it comes to the industry. They're every industry story. Clint and Elise did a good job saying what a data center is. And the reality is everything we do today runs through a data center, healthcare systems, manufacturing lines, financial transactions, transportation networks, anything you name it, right? A data center is behind it. And AI and as cloud adoption accelerate, the conversation quickly becomes just from servers and software to much more a fundamental question around power, right? Data centers are driving an entirely new level of power demand, which means, we got to start thinking very differently about electricity, about how, electricity is generated, where it comes from, how it gets delivered to these places. We're seeing how data centers are shaping the grid, how the grid has to plan for it, how we have to accelerate investments to be able to push the industry to think differently around reliability, resiliency, and sustainability. Right? It's not just longer about putting a new data center and plugging into the grid. These data centers are now becoming active participants on what the new ecosystem needs to be for energy, right? Whether we have to upgrade, what we need to enable new generation for power, right? And what does that mean? So in a lot of ways, when we think about data centers, they're not just data centers, they're supporting other industries now. They're showcasing how industries need to grow, where we need to invest, the supply chain behind it, and at the end of the day, where electrification comes from. I don't know, Clint, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, honestly, when this whole AI boom kicks off, the most exciting part for me is seeing that data centers are a catalyst for investment into our grid. So if I'm here in the US, if you look around, a lot of our grid's over 50 years old with a concerning amount of material operating well beyond its design life. So what does that mean? Well, before data centers, updates happened slow. It was mostly, if something breaks or if a certain facility was doing an expansion and there was an immediate need, mostly because the return on investment just wasn't there to justify big dollars flowing into it. Data centers and AI have completely changed that today. So the landscape has totally shifted. Data centers now deliver returns that catch the eye of investors, and it's translating into billions of dollars being funneled into our grid. And this grid development is happening at levels we haven't seen since, right after World War II. And when money flows into the grid and grid stability, we all benefit. It makes a stronger, more reliable grid for all of us. When we think about the big picture forces tied in with this investment, there are growing pains. This demand boom has created an imbalance for suppliers when it comes to supply and demand. And you think back to COVID, although we're well past the COVID supply chain struggles, lead times are still multiples of what we saw before there. And it's a simple equation of supply and demand. And our segment is struggling to build out capacity fast enough to keep up with the demand. And for somebody looking for a job and looking for opportunity, to me, that screams, come to Eaton, come to data centers. Megan?
We might have some connectivity issues. I can jump into actually our next point, which was when we look ahead as Eaton and the data center industry, where are we kind of pointing our ship? Where is the industry heading? And how can we, what are we doing to contribute to that? So I'll take a little bit more of a commercial perspective, and then I'm going to hand it over to Alex for more of a technical perspective. So Eaton has been in the electrical business for over 100 years. And as we've established, getting energy, getting power to a data center is extremely important, all the way from the grid down to the chip where, the real magic happens. So Eaton is looking at pulling together reliable products, a suite of reliable products that make that happen, that, will calm our customers' minds when they are going to sleep at night and don't have to think about, if the power is going to stay on or not. So Eaton is focused on making high quality products that keeps everything running. And also Eaton is investing in the right teams, because it doesn't, products are going to fail. That's always going to happen, but it's how you respond that really makes a difference. And Eaton is pulling together the whole, team of people to support our customers, to make sure when things do go wrong, we have the right technical persons in place. We've got the right, bodies if they need to go to site to fix something fast. So when I'm out working with my customer, that's absolutely what I'm instilling in them through Eaton's network of people, high quality products, to make sure that they know that when things do go wrong, which isn't that often, that someone's there, and actually everyone that's needed is going to be there to fix it fast. Alex, you want to give more of a technical perspective to the future of Eaton and data centers?
Yeah. So in my perspective, at least, right, I think when we look at the future of data center and just Eaton as a whole, when it comes to participating in this, and I think we're in an inflection point, right? And I think you can see that Eaton's really leaning in. We kind of say that data centers are not just building full servers anymore, right? They're becoming very dynamic systems, and the way it interacts with the grid, responding to the different change of loads. What we're hearing has AI racks are becoming smarter, and our data centers need to scale faster than ever before, right? So part of what my team is doing, and a part of Eaton's new initiative of being able to focus on end to end, the grid to chip approach, connecting power from the utility down all the way down to the rack. Eaton wants to be in the forefront of being able to be part of a whole system solution. So when I think about where we're heading and where my team is part of is being really embracing the new technologies and these direct current. Direct current is going to be able to support the higher density racks and be able to improve efficiency and better manage the volatility that comes with AI loads, and be able to advance computing. So when I think at the end of the day where Eaton's future it's really in the data centers, and it's being agile, being able to move faster, being able to deliver full solutions to our customers. That way we can help our customers build data centers and be able to provide the next generation of data centers, and what that technology, when it comes to like power demand and just the digital innovation behind that.
Yeah, no, all good points, Alex. And I think you started to talk about it, right, as the formation of your team. And so I'd love to hear from you first here. From your perspective, what positions Eaton as a leader in the data center space, and what differentiates us? And maybe you can talk to the creation of your team and some of the initiatives that you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely, Megan. So from my perspective, right, Eaton's leadership in data center really comes on a mindset shift. And that's something that I'm living firsthand, right? We have made very intentional moves as a company in thinking of, hey, we're not longer going to think about our individual products. We're really going to think about it as a complete system, right? We're going to be able to build teams, and I'm talking about my team that can able to support that shift, right? My team was created specifically to break down silos. And we look at this from an end-to-end solutions, right? How do we tie in from the grid to chip? And my team, it's working from a global, how do we utilize the global infrastructure we have to be able to go out, deploy products, right? How do we build a new product portfolio? And what does that mean with our customers, right? We're focused in bringing systems, but also engaging in how we bring new technologies, right? So like with this whole direct current, that means we look at solid state technologies and digital tools that can help change the way data centers are designed and built. The system level approach allows us to manufacture and deliver solutions faster to market, right? We want to think about scalability and repeatability in mind. So when we're looking at the different systems designs, right, we can have one offering or multiple offerings based on our customers. I think being thought leader in the space is being open about new technologies and how we can go out and execute faster. Clint, you're living it right now in the data center space with your team. What do you see from your perspective? Right, I'm tied to the engineering and technology, but you're seeing it from the commercial side.
Yeah, so you said thought leader, and that's what really comes to mind. And I think that's where we position ourselves as a leader in the space as a whole. We're not just solving the problems of today. We're not just supplying equipment today. We're thinking down the road. I mean, look at you and your team, right? We're investing in not just capital, but human resources as well to start thinking about not just what we're solving today, but what problems are going to be there tomorrow and how we solve it. I mean, if you think about solid state transformers, solid state breakers, the whole 800 volt DC architecture, these AI burst loads, it was a problem that nobody saw coming. And we were uniquely positioned to have a solution on both sides of the UPS, coming from and to the grid, because this burst loading is not something that our grid in its current form can handle. So all of those things come together to say, hey, Eaton doesn't just participate in this, Eaton leads here. And I really think, when you look at us as an organization, our differentiator in this space is our offering. I mean, we have an offering from 38 kV all the way down to the white space. And what that means is we can contribute everywhere, right? We go to any customer and we can see the solutions in a way that other folks can't if you're providing one single component. So like you mentioned, Alex, we look at it as a system, and it's not just a piece. Because we have this breadth of products that we can provide, we can look at it holistically and have a very unique perspective of what data centers, AI, and all these things mean to the electrical system.
Great points, guys. Yeah, I would add, Eaton is investing, right? We're developing our new technologies and products. And as Clint said, right, we are a thought leader in this space. This is a really exciting time in our business. And I know this team is passionate about our success. So continuing with that passion, Elise, maybe you can start us off with the next question here. What aspects of Eaton's data center business make it especially exciting for those passionate about innovation and technology?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't come from a technical background, but I still find it wildly exciting to be part of this space because there's so much growth, there's so much opportunity, and we need all hands on deck. We need not only the engineers coming up with the new solutions, we need field engineers as well, field support, but we also need project managers, site managers, procurement directors, folks, making sure that the people in the plants making these things pulled together and manufactured, and we just need everyone. So I'm super excited because as a non-technical background person, I studied business actually, and I wanted to be an ambassador. That was my childhood dream. But I'm fulfilling that to some extent because I'm getting to be in an international setting, working with people from all different cultures and backgrounds. And 1 year into Eaton, I can honestly say I have been in the industry longer than just being at Eaton, and Eaton is set apart because of our people, because of how we support, like Clint said, our differentiator, which is our full suite of products and solutions. It's supported by a great group of people worldwide. Anyone I've met from Eaton, regardless of the location, they're always willing to help and ultimately wanting to make sure our customers are supported, that they know that they can rely on Eaton. And that's what we're doing every day. Eaton is hiring the best and the brightest to fill all of these roles to ultimately support our customers and their goals in building out these data centers. So I find it really exciting from more of a non-technical background approach, but there's of course really exciting opportunities on our technical in our technical advancements and teams. Alex, you want to add to that? I think you're probably the best person to add to that.
Well, I think, to be honest, this is an area where I can geek out a little bit, right? Because what really excites me about the shift in innovation right now, specifically with the shift that's happening in data centers, with the shift into looking direct current, is that we're able to look at new technologies. And one of those technologies really is solid state, right? Most, your computer, your cell phones, right? Everything that you have around you runs in direct current, but like in really small amperages and voltages. And now when we start thinking about being able to design a data center that's going to run in direct current, you start thinking about the infrastructure and the reality behind that, right? And then you start thinking how we can utilize new technologies. It's going to be a complete game changer. And this is where we talk about the data center industry being a catalyst to other industries, right? Solid state transformers let us move power closer to the load. So, how do we remove a lot of different conversions to be able to provide faster and smarter data center technology to be able to maintain the requirements that those AI chips require, right? So for me, I think Eaton's, it's extremely exciting because we're not just improving the way things are today. We're fundamentally redesigning how power is going to support AI and eventually being able to take that technology and do some other exciting things for other parts of the industry. So innovation is it's in the forefront for us every day when I wake up every morning. So it's an exciting time for the industry.
It is an exciting time. I'd like to take us in a little bit of a different direction and take maybe a question or two from our audience here. So we have a question from Alvaro, and they're asking, I have seen a significant decline in the public acceptance of data centers. What solutions can data centers bring to help ease some of this negative sentiment? And how can data centers drive a higher benefit to the communities that they're in?
Hey, Megan, I'll kick this one off. And this one kind of cuts deep for me. I'm from West Virginia. It's a state and a community that's economy and environment has, been drastically impacted by coal mines, right? So when I hear a lot of the comments that people bring up around their concerns with data centers, it really resonates with me. I think there's a big gap in understanding of most of the folks that have these very strong negative opinions. First off, you hear water all the time. Well, most of these are liquid cooled data centers, but they're closed loops with glycol. It's not like you have a constant feed of water that's coming through and it's pulling from the local facility. Two, you think about the grid, and I think in the short term there can be added stress, but these utilities are smart. They're not just blindly saying build a data center here. They have tiered capacity where they bring on incremental power to support these, and in addition to it, these are causing investment into the grid. So there may be a short-term pain, and again, it's on the utilities to help police this, but it's going to be a long-term gain, and that's not even if you factor in self-generation and some of the other outside benefits. So when we think about what data centers can do to help ease this negative sentiment, I think it's an education thing. I think folks need to understand the benefits. If you pump $3 billion into a small community and you have all these folks coming in to produce a data center, every local contractor, every local person who needs a job has an opportunity. It may be a short window of time, but that can help be the catalyst to send a whole area's economy in a different direction. Look at Loudoun County in Northern Virginia. Obviously there's other factors at play, but there's key strategic legislation has led to that being one of the wealthiest counties in the country with one of the highest densities of data centers. So I think we just need to be more forthcoming with information, and events like this help educate people that these can be good if you look at it, for the full offering.
Agreed. Anyone else have anything that they would like to add to that?
I think Clint covered it pretty well. Thanks, Clint.
Agreed. Clint, wonderful answer here. Actually, one of the things that you spoke to is liquid cooling, right? And so we have another question from Lusano in our audience. They're wanting to understand, what are the cooling requirements for data center designs? And are they utilizing an existing energy tap or creating their own source, such as nuclear?
I guess I'll handle this one as well. So spin it back, everything was air cooled a number of years ago. When you get higher density at the rack, you used to have 10 kW racks. Now you have up to a megawatt racks. What does that mean? Well, physics says air can only cool so much. It doesn't matter how much forced air you get, you're not going to cool a megawatt rack with air. So that has pushed us towards liquid cooling. And again, there's proprietary glycol. There's a lot of different solutions to it, but most of the data centers doing high density are doing liquid cooling and liquid to the chip too, which is a next iteration of that liquid cooling. Using existing energy taps and creating their own source, it's really interesting. And i.e. nuclear, I mean, that's kind of the buzzword we hear. I think long term, you have to see like small modular reactors being the solution. All these microgrids, it's the only thing that makes sense to me. There's a big gap between perfect in future state and today. So what we're seeing, folks, now is on-site generation, mostly around natural gas. If you take our electrical grid and you overlap it with our natural gas infrastructure, it makes a pretty nice overlay. So what that means is data center providers that have existing pieces of property and have already made acquisitions of land and site plans. That is the next step towards, I'll call it greener and self-generation, right? On-site generation with natural gas. And I think, again, the end state will be a bunch of microgrids that will have a bunch of ancillary benefits. But in the interim, everybody's talking about self-generation. I think you have to with the demand. We can't just drop 10 gigawatts on the grid and say good luck.
Right. No, 100%. I think that actually is a really good segue into our next question here. So I'm wondering, can you share some examples of key partnerships, collaborations, or acquisitions that Eaton's role in the data center that helps strengthen Eaton's role in the data center industry? Clint, I know you're on a roll here, but I'm going to ask you to kick us off again.
Yeah, no problem. So Eaton's participation in data centers has really come through acquisition. You spin it back, Eaton is a legacy electrical distribution equipment manufacturer, switchboards, medium voltage gear, breakers. I mean, Cutler Hammer, Westinghouse, you really spin it back in the days. In 2004, we bought a company called Powerware. And Powerware gave us a UPS offering that introduced us to the whole power quality space, which was really our kind of foot in the door of data centers. We continue to make acquisitions since then. 2012 was Cooper, not so much data center focused, but helps us be that full solutions provider and fill in some missing gaps, primarily on the medium voltage side. But things really heated up in 2020 when we bought a company called PDI. So PDI makes, now part of our DCPD group, which Megan knows everything about, makes RPPs, STS, and PDUs. And the cool part of that acquisition was PDI had a lot of relationships in the multi-tenant data center and co-location space. And Eaton has a whole slew of products that we could sell them. So that acquisition helped anchor us as a data center player. And then again, we kept burning from there. AAA in 2021 gave us white space equipment. Fiberbond in 2025 gave us pods. You can't open an article about data centers without reading modular and what that means and how folks are going towards it. Looking at future state, resilient power, that gives us a solid state transformer and reinforces our commitment to DC architecture and helps keep Alex employed. And then, we talk about kind of continuing from there, the Boyd acquisition or, the attempt to purchase Boyd, we're still going through due diligence. That will expand us further in the white space and give us more products and more offerings to better service our customer. Alex, do you want to chime in on this one?
Yeah, definitely, Clint. And when I think about, partnerships at Eaton, I think it always starts with our customers because they're our biggest partners, right? In the data center space in particularly, our customers aren't just coming to us with a list of products that they want. They're bringing us to their toughest challenges. And I think, we're seeing this with this AI-driven power density, right? They want us to think in partnership with them on how we can move faster and rethink how they're designing their data centers, right? The collaboration with them, it happens early at the design table, right? And we work side by side with them to develop the system level solution they're going to need from the grid all the way down to the chip. So, in that way, we're collaborating very closely. And when you're working that closely with a customer, that helps us to make decisions around the technology roadmap and what we need to bring out to market to be able to support them, right? Not just from a product level, but also how we're building teams and how we're building and reshaping our organization to be able to support the data center growth in particular, right? And what really strengthened Eaton's role in the industry is, our customers are not just seeing us as a supplier or a manufacturer, right? They are seeing us as a partner that can help them define what they need and how they look at the next generation of data centers.
Yeah, and Megan, before we move on, if I could add one thing that has come up a couple of times is modular. And I know Clint mentioned our fiber bond acquisition, but speaking from the EMEA region, we also have a joint venture here with a modular data center provider. And not only, can we provide an actual full data center in modules, basically Legos. We can also, and I'm working with our customer, actually my customer, on engineering, even smaller pieces of that larger data center puzzle that are in a modular format that can make building faster and the building more efficient to conserve on energy, water, space, etc. So I think Eaton's also the forefront of that, and I just want to make sure that point gets highlighted because for me, it's really important to my customer. It's high in their mind and their priorities, and it also is high on Eaton's list of priorities and how we are bringing innovation in all different areas to our customers.
Agreed, Elise. And actually, that's a really good point that I was going to emphasize as well. So we at Eaton, yes, we collaborate closely with our customers to help solve their toughest problems. And that started to answer actually a question from one of our audience members, Helen. And she's asking, with the rising demand for edge computing, how is Eaton tailoring its modular data center solutions to support rapid deployment in non-traditional spaces? This also reminds me of the fiber bond acquisition.
Yeah, and Megan, I'm gonna start the question. I'm sure Clint and Elise can add on to them. They started to give some of that answer as well. But when we look at modular, we got to think about it from the gray space and the white space. And then this really ties into partnerships and acquisitions, right? We got the Firebond acquisition that's really taking on, hey, how do we build pods that are going to support the gray space, right? Your power distribution outside the data center. We recently announced a partnership with FlexNode. So now we're able to create modular pods right now in the white space. And this shift of being able to create pods allows you like, hey, I'm going to design this out. So the only thing the data center has to do is that the skid or this pod shows up to their site and they just slide it in and then you just have to connect everything. And having the ability to now do it also in the white space will help through that transition of being to expedite and build data centers quite a bit much faster. And at least you're seeing your partnerships out in EMEA, right? And now, Clint, with the multi-tenant data center, you're right. They're thinking about in pod structures just the way they're building as well.
Yeah, I'll kind of take a step forward and take a step back. Everybody talks modular, and when you think, why do we hear this? I think it's important to understand modular is beneficial for a number of reasons. One, the question was great when it says, how do you keep up with this rapid deployment? Well, when you do work in a controlled environment, like a plant where you're making these pods, you can go faster, right? So step one, faster. Two, when you look at the constraints of a construction project or a developer building data centers, labor is a big problem. Skilled electricians is a huge problem. If you have union requirements, right? You could be in an area that all of a sudden now you have union labor, and that's even harder to find, right? The union halls are empty. If you're a journeyman, you're out working and you're taking your pick of the job you want. So modular allows these companies to scale at a pace they could never do without. And it also allows them to build their supply chain better and build in redundancy. If you have a bunch of pods or a bunch of, modular white space sitting in the same space, there's a physical limitation of how many people can be working in there. If you have 4 different suppliers building pods and then you just drop them on site, you don't have the same limitation. So modular is really the only solution I see to do this pace that the market is demanding. And folks are looking further and further. We're skidding and podding more equipment, and equipment that I never thought would be skidded or podded, just because the scale at which they build means it starts making sense.
Yeah, agreed.
No, great answers, guys. And kind of along those same lines, right? So thinking about data centers and the growth in this space and the demand that is needed. We have another question from another audience member, Teresa. She's asking, as demand for data centers continues to grow with AI, cloud computing, and big data, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges organizations will face in supporting that growth over the next few years?
I'm biting my tongue because I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I will chime in one last time.
Go for it.
I think the biggest problem we're just going to see is the sheer demand. When we get forecasts from our customer and we keep a tab and a pulse on deal flows, it's not slowing down. This is forcing our customers and us to build out capacity as fast as we can. And I think balancing building out capacity and maintaining quality and support is going to be the challenge that this organization and other organizations like us see in the next few years. I think we're better positioned than most because we already have a robust service organization, a big footprint. We can pivot in certain manufacturing locations to different products based on needs. But the concern I have is a lot of these new players come into the space and what that means for the customer that buys a product from a 2-year-old company in 25 years. Is that company still going to be around? Is it going to be a product that they're aware of? Is there going to be significant service bulletins? These are the things that I think about as I see the pace just going at a rate that nobody can catch.
Yeah, and Clint, I'm going to take a different approach to this question because what keeps me up at night is it's very different from the commercial side, right?
DC architecture.
Yeah, so from an innovation perspective, right, talking about new technology, right, when you're looking at bringing a solid state breaker, a solid state to market, or bringing a whole portfolio of products that just doesn't exist yet. And I would say one of the challenges I see, we all want to move fast. We all want to grow fast, right? We got some due diligence there. But one of the things that from the engineering side and just from the market itself is our standards or code are not there yet for 800 volts DC, right? So that means that as an industry, right, we're working very closely with ULIEC, right? This is a global initiative. From an industry level, we're bringing new codes and new standards that just don't exist, right? We're talking about 800 volts DC, eventually 1500 volts DC, right? Your energy transition market, solar has played there, but when you're talking about bringing that kind of level of current into a facility with such high amperages as well, that means we got to look at our safety standards, the standards our products are being built at. Right. So, there's a whole other challenge of, hey, we need to go build these AI data centers. We got to move fast. But from an industry, there's a lot that has to change and a lot of collaboration between manufacturers, a lot of collaborations with hyperscalers and multi-tenant data centers, and even your chip manufacturers, right? There's this huge partnership globally that's happening because we're going to be changing the market as a whole. And this brings, hey, we got to train people on how to work safely in 800 volts DC. We got to teach our manufacturer how they're going to be testing new products, right? So this whole AI and the way the demand that the data centers continue to grow, that's where I want to drill in. Is like it's changing so much that it's not just about building a building anymore. It's about how it's going to change the industry as a whole.
Yeah, those are really good points.
Yeah,
I would just add, it's kind of a buzzword, at least when I'm around different trade shows, especially in Europe, because it's a hot topic. It's one of our favorite topics over here. Is regulatory challenges, and I think that's manufacturers can be ready, the customer can be ready to invest. All the funding is ready, everything's set up, and then, for example, I'm working on a project right now. The permits aren't there, and there's a change in government, and we don't know what's going to happen, and everything's ready to go, but it's that regulatory consideration that is completely delaying it. So I think that's another pillar of these collection of challenges that affect our customers and us, to be honest, directly, really. So I'm seeing it, especially living in Brussels, it being kind of the regulatory hub of Europe. They want to know how they can help things go faster because they know that's an inhibitor. But still, it is, it's just one of those things that they're trying to make it go faster, but we'll see. They can't change things overnight. These are really, really big governing bodies that need to go through the processes. So yeah, that's a huge consideration for our customers and for us ultimately. It affects us.
Agreed. And I'd like to add too, back to what Clint was talking about, right? And kind of something that sets Eaton apart from some of these maybe new up and coming competitors that we have in the space. We have a global footprint, right? As you can see with Elise and our EMEA team, we have an APAC team, right? We're all over the world. We're a global company. And so something that kind of sets us apart and helps us and with this growth and with the challenges that our organization's facing now is our ability to flex our manufacturing capabilities across the globe, right, with our global product offerings. And so that's something that kind of we're leaning on and leaning on each other from our different teams across the world to help with some of those demands where it might be, heavier in the US right now, but maybe not as heavy in other areas. We can shift that demand to help with that manufacturing capacity. And so I think that sets Eaton apart a little bit in the industry.
Absolutely.
I'd like to take another question from our audience here. This one is from Brandon, and I'm hoping, Elise, maybe you can give us some insight here. Once the data centers are up and running, what are the workforce needs to support that operation? I know you work closely with your hyperscale customers, so maybe you can take the lead on this one.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the short answer is pretty minimal, actually. I was just on site at an operational data center last week in Dublin, and I saw pretty much an empty canteen there on site. So, from our customers' perspective, it's pretty minimal because they've made things efficient, reliable, but from a manufacturer's standpoint, also fairly minimal because we've got such reliable products that they don't need a lot of, intervention or support. We, of course, they're electrical equipment, so we have preventative maintenance visits every year scheduled. But I think, we do, and Eaton does a good job of investing in the right people to support that kind of post-delivery workforce. We've got, obviously, customer service everywhere. We've got field technicians ready to be deployed when something goes wrong. And I've got, with my customer at SLA, our service level agreement that is within 2 hours if something goes wrong, we agree legally that someone's going to be there to fix it. Not necessarily a solution within 2 hours, but that there will be someone there. And I think that, it's depending on kind of the application. It's you of course need people, but I think, like I mentioned, the short answer is it's actually fairly minimal. But we've got to have them everywhere, especially in hubs where there are a lot of data centers. We scale up. We've got more technicians in certain areas ready to support. But I think it's an interesting, it's an interesting opportunity, let's say, for the service team, because they really have to make sure that they've got the right people in the right places. But yeah, I think we've learned and come to a really efficient setup. I've seen that in the year that I've been with Eaton.
Anyone else have anything to add to that one? I think Elisa covering it.
I think that's good. Thanks, Liz.
I think, one last question I'd like to take from the audience here is from Tibet, and they're asking, what is the most surprising or disruptive trend you've seen in the data center design over the last 12 months?
I'm going to nominate Alex for this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the 800 volts DC, right? I think that's extremely innovative. It's throwing a wrench at the way the people are thinking about data centers, right? Again, one of the biggest and most exciting parts is looking how you're going to get that 800 volts DC. Every single manufacturer has their secret sauce, right, of what they think it's their right to win, or how they're going to go out and deploy 800 volts DC. So I would say, hey, as we start looking at the AI racks themselves and how powerful those chips are starting to become, and the power demand around that 800 volts direct current into a data center, it's extremely disruptive. I mean, everything's alternating current today, and you're thinking about a whole product portfolio, right? From the service entrance to that facility, all the way down to the connection of that 18 wide, 19-inch wide rack that has all those servers and all that computing happening, right? And how do you get that power into a white space, into that rack, right? I would say that that's the most disruptive thing that we're seeing. And now, the advancement of liquid cooling technologies, right? Or the different ways to distribute power within, and looking at a whole level of innovation and collaboration happening as a whole in the industry. It's what's really driving right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken us back to the Tesla versus Westinghouse. And if folks don't know, Eaton acquired Westinghouse, so we are descendants of that, let's call it, debate.
Yep.
So it's exciting to see, because it makes sense when you look at the losses associated and the size and the scale. So again, just more of a unique problem that data centers enable us to focus on, to solve, and now it makes sense in a capitalistic economy to drive that solution. So
great points, guys. I think there's one last audience question that I'd like to take, and I think it hits home for all of us, because we were once a fresh grad. There's a question asking, I'm a fresh grad and I'm trying to start my career in data centers. I have a bachelor's degree in electronics. How can I do this?
Scan the QR code at the end of this live event. Step one. No, there's going to be unlimited opportunities. I think you go on LinkedIn, look for data centers, type it in, be on the lookout. I think there's unlimited opportunities, and I do not think you can go wrong looking towards data centers as a step. And as everybody on this call would say, you graduate or you start your career in one area and you become an expert of your craft, and you tend to stay there if you do a good job. So I think that this would be a great place to kind of get your foot in the door, industry and Eaton, to kind of advance.
I'd probably say also, there are, as a huge industry, there's a lot of trade shows out there that are actually free to attend. Like, for example, last week I was in DCW in London, Tech Show London, and that's a free conference. That's a free trade show. It's massive. And so if you just look for those around you, I think those are really great opportunities to just present yourself to the industry, walk around, get familiar with some of the big players, the smaller players, grab some of those flyers, the free merch, just talk to people. I think in the age of digital realm, a lot of businesses still, and a lot of opportunities and a lot of things still happen just in between persons. So I think if you can just get out there, try to find an in-person event that you can attend that's free. I think that's a great way. That's certainly how I have done a lot. I think progressed in my own career is just talking to people. And that's one way you can do it a bit more targeted, is look for those free trade shows. And it doesn't even have to be like the tech shows. It's all the cool chips and applications. Even go to the manufacturing trade shows. Go to the equipment trade shows, because those are big parts of the data centers industry. And like we're speaking from Eaton's perspective, it's the building blocks, and there's a lot of opportunities, like we've all mentioned, in the data center industry. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in the computing side, but it can also be in a lot of these different areas.
Yeah, I think a great place to start too is as a fresh grad, right? As maybe your university or school that you're graduating from potentially has a career fair, and so tailoring your resume and having a thought around, a bachelor's degree in electronics could go a lot of different ways, right? You can take that the engineering route. You can take that more of a design route. You could say, hey, I have this great background in electronics. I'd like to maybe be a little bit more commercial, and I like to talk with people, and I want to go into sales. So there's a lot of different paths that you can take. And so just having that interest known, and taking that resume and talking with companies maybe at a career fair. I'd like to have us wrap up here with one last question. And so maybe for everyone on the panel here to take a stab at this question. So for those interested in the field, what future roles or skills will be most important as this field continues to evolve? And how did your career path lead you here?
I'll start it off, Megan. One thing that I'm going to start off is my career at Eaton started very differently from Elise and Clint. And that's the great thing about this panel, right? And the collaboration we have here is that I started my career in the field. So I was driving a pickup truck around the country, working not just in data centers, but working on different sites of facilities, right? And I got the opportunity to live abroad and commission data centers. I was living out in Amsterdam and supporting Dublin. So it was a pretty neat experience. But one of the things that I want to highlight is I started my career in the field. Eventually, I went and supported a product line as an application engineer. I started to learn that I really loved the commercial side of the business. Got an opportunity here the last 3 years to be the area sales manager for one of the teams. And then eventually I ended up back in the data center space, right, with this role. So, one of the things that I'm going to say that, they're very different career paths. There's going to be a time in your career where, hey, I think I know where I want to be 5 years from now. I'm going to challenge that, because as you come into a new role and you start learning more about an opportunity, a field, you're going to have different interests that are going to help you develop your career and your path to where you're at. I don't think I would be here today where I am at if it wasn't for the mentors and the people in my corner, right? Having mentors early on in your career and having people who are guiding you, coaching you through that process, right, really helps make some of the decisions of like, hey, I really want to push myself out of a comfort zone and try this, right? And having the opportunity to have those conversations and someone actually giving you an opportunity, right? Like I'm leading right now one of the largest initiatives for Eaton. If you have told me 3 years ago I'll be doing this, I would say you're joking, right? And that kind of showcase Eaton's, promise, or that Eaton's initiative to be able to support people in their career, right? So, Megan, I think I deviated a little bit because, whatever your passion is and what you're looking to do, there's a path to get there.
Yeah, Alex, I'm nodding my head over here like a bobblehead because I agree with everything you've said. Mentors, great, really great resources that are free for everyone to use. And especially in this industry, I think, it's an aging industry and everyone's aware of that. So I think especially in this industry, it's a great moment to come in because that knowledge that has gotten us to this point is going to be retiring soon. And so we need to pass that on to make sure that there's that continuity. So yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with everything you said. I think I would, my career path also, I didn't really, well, I shared earlier, I wanted to be an international ambassador. I'm not sitting in a embassy right now, but I am living a dream that in a different way that I didn't expect, which is I'm getting to travel every week to a different European city practically. I'm getting to work with people from all different cultures and backgrounds, and it's extremely exciting to me, and that's really where I enjoy connecting with people in that way. And data centers are also making that happen, which is so cool. But I would say, yeah, saying yes in your career is a really big, that's helped me, and just kind of being open to a non-linear progression. And also, I think what's gotten me a long ways is positivity. And I think if you show up every day wanting to make your coworkers, your teammates, your customers, your partners' day better because you were the one working with them on a problem and you brought that positivity and yeah, a laugh, making things light. I think, we all have to work in collaboration. We all have to work with others. And that's really my goal every day is to be, to make someone else's day different because I was the person working, on that particular challenge, problem, etc. So, or opportunity, even. It's also a lot of positive things. So yeah, I think show up with a positive attitude, and be open to opportunities. Clint, I know I've kept your time kind of short, but I'm handing it over to you.
No, it was good. You preach, I turn the pages. I was not alone. When it comes to what roles are going to be important, I think we beat that drum already. There's going to be opportunity for everything. Whether you're the janitor, whether you're a project manager, whether you're a sales engineer, an engineer, there's going to be opportunity anywhere. When you think about the skills to help you, succeed here, it's going to be the same. It's the same skills that helped you yesterday, and it'll be the same skills to help you tomorrow. Those interpersonal connections, work ethic. I loved, I forget who said it, the ability to say yes, be willing to say yes. At least I think it was you. It's like, take the opportunities. And then Alex, you mentioned on mentors. I'm super passionate about that. I think you have to have good mentors. And the advice that I would give anybody is don't let a mentor find you. Go find a mentor. Pick who you want to learn from. Find somebody who's impressive to you, who has some things that you want that you don't have yet, or is in a position you want to be that you're not there yet, and learn from them. So, and scan the QR code. Number one, scan the QR code.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I would just add, my career path has also been a little bit different than some. I have started in marketing or started in sales, been able to pivot to HR and switch to marketing as well. So being able to chase your passions and having that, ability all within one company is a pretty amazing thing. So if you are interested in learning more about Eaton and our open roles, we will share a QR code on the next screen that you can scan or go to the link at eaton.com/careers and check out our careers page. Thanks, everyone.